What's up, my silent and deadly assassins out there? Your boy, ShadowBadass, is back. Gonna be getting back into doing some videos. A lot more video content are gonna be coming, and I'm actually gonna cover a Destiny 2 video here. I've been kind of wanting to do this video for a couple of weeks, and really, it's kind of just gameplay improvements and a lot of just improvements. I'm wanting to just kind of get out there about Destiny 2 and the Lightfall experience and post-Lightfall, and I really was wanting to cover this, but I wanted to wait until Bungie talked about here recently their mid-season update that was coming, so I wanted to wait and see what they had coming in that, see if it kind of addressed any of this, how I can just leave it out. But they didn't really address a lot of really anything that I was looking for, so I figured I'd just go ahead and get it going. So the first thing is, yeah, I mean, the expansion was pretty good. I actually kind of liked the expansion. The story was straight dog poo, but the story was basically just Strand, and that the story of getting Strand, and then there's a boss at the end of getting Strand, I guess. I mean, that was basically the story, and it wasn't anything like what we were led up to believe it was going to be, which is really kind of annoying. But one of the major issues that I have currently with the Lightfall expansion is not really so much just the story and whatever they did, but it's kind of the process of the story. In the previous expansions, most of the stories that we've seen, as we've seen the expansion actually kind of be done for the most part within 3 to 5 weeks, so around 1 month time frame. They're usually done. Like, we're done with like all the content kind of in the expansion. Some of it's time gated. You got to do like certain things like weekly until they're kind of all unlocked and done. And then for the most part, then the expansion is pretty much over. Then it's just the seasonal model. They also do have the seasonal model, right? It's 4 seasons out of the year. They're usually about 3 months long each. But the recent kind of things that they've kind of hinted at about bringing new seasonal content in Season of the Deep or Season 21, that's kind of where I have some concerns, okay? And I'm going to get into that. So looking here at the TWAB back from March the 9th here, just about a month ago now. Scroll down and we come to some dialogue right here. Okay, so this dialogue, I just kind of want to focus real quick about this. As we mentioned in last week's TWAB, a new year of storytelling kicked off with Lightfall and will continue throughout our seasons between now and the final shape. While we're just a week into the Season of the Defiance, and we don't always share future narrative details this far in advance, we feel it's important to give everyone a preview of a particular quest we're bringing to Neomuna in Season of the Deep, as well as the rewards it will provide. Throughout this quest, players will explore the city to learn about the nature of the Veil through Osiris's research and newly discovered Ishtar collective data. This brief pursuit will be available to all Lightfall owners and will take place separately from the events of Season of the Deep. Now, this is where I have an issue with this, okay? So they are basically saying we have pushed an expansionary content here to 3 months after expansion. And we hadn't seen that from really, I don't think, Bungie before. Not that I can remember. And it's kind of just one of those, so now they're taking expansionary content and then making that a seasonal model as well. So it's just kind of interesting that they're doing this approach. I don't like this approach really at all, because we already pay for a seasonal model in the game. So I don't want content that I'm paying on the yearly expansion to then also be a seasonal model. Okay, so that's just kind of where my hang up is here with this content, and we're going to find out. Players will explore the city part. If there's going to be like a new quest and mission or standalone missions that we haven't seen before, if that was kind of all in development and this was kind of pre-planned, or was this kind of the feedback because back in this time a lot of people were like, that's it for the story, like we didn't learn anything about the Veil, which we didn't in the story outside of what it looks like. But it is just one of those things that I don't like this model. I don't want to see them go down this route. I'm really kind of hoping, really was kind of waiting to hear some of the other YouTubers, especially the big ones, that actually bring this issue up, because nobody really talked about this, and this is something I don't like. I just don't like this at all. I hope they just go away from this. I don't know what the deal is with this. Was this the plan the whole time, or was this like a late push, like, hey, let's just make a quest and kind of explain what the Veil is? I don't know. Well, I mean, we'll find out. If there's actual missions, a new mission or something, to me it's going to be a little bit more pre-planned that they were going to go this way. if there's no mission, it's just kind of like, hey, go here to check out all these spots that we already have unlocked in Neomuna, then that'll seem like, you know, it's just a late ad to explain what the Veil is. Anyways, that's all I've really got about that. But I do like the Lightfall expansion for the most part, because we do have, I mean, Strand has been fun. We've had great changes to customization, characters, builds and loadouts and stuff like that. So for the most part, yeah, it's been really good. The second thing I'd actually like to talk about is armor mods. This is something that is really annoying, and I know some people have kind of brought it up before, but they really need, like, Bungie really needs to fix this. Just looking here at this chest piece, you know, we can see that I have 4 mods selected here, and it's not a big deal. When you hover over it, you see 4 mods, you know, on the little brief overview. If you hover over a piece of Artifice armor, though, and you go in and you see that there's 5 pieces here that I have selected on each slot, you still only see 4. The max you can see is 4. I would really like for them to make that 5. Let's see all of them. And I do know that we have the, you know, overview screen to the right, but it's still just one of those really annoying things. It's just like, I just want to be able to hover over and see all the mods on my gear piece. I don't have to always scroll over here when I need to briefly check out just one piece of armor. And then this goes back to another kind of issue, is on, you know, during gameplay, when you're actually having buffs and debuffs on the left side of your screen. You know, why do we have a limitation of just 4? Let's get all of them out there. This is nothing new. I know a lot of people have been hitting on this one because it really is annoying. I mean, the game has gotten a lot more complex. There's a lot more buffs. There's a lot more debuffs, and some of those debuffs are actually kind of very important. And I'd also like to have them color coded, like red are debuffs or white mechanics or something like that. Greens are buffs. Blues are kind of, you know, just other things, miscellaneous, I guess. I don't know. But I would really like to see something like that where we can see all the buffs and debuffs, and, you know, kind of maybe color coordinate them a little bit. That way we can see the prioritization. The third thing I'd like to talk about, and this is another one I have not seen anybody talk about, and I mean, unbelievable. I haven't seen anybody talk about that. Looking at this artifact, you know, you can have it selected any which way, but you can't toggle any of the mods. You have to reset your artifact to be able to redo your entire artifact. And it's one of those things when we have gotten crazy build customization options out there, especially when it comes to armor and weapon tunement and alignment. Oh my gosh, the artifact drives what is meta for the season for the most part. And since we don't have that ability to easily toggle things on the artifact, we have to actually just, you know, reset it and then redo it every time. It is really, really annoying to have to go through this every time, and it is one that we need to have a simpler process to kind of get what we want out of this. And if we can get it to where, you know, you can toggle off certain ones and turn on and off others, or something like that, this just needs to be a lot easier to manage for builds and loadouts, and make things a lot faster for build swapping. Because when you change your builds and you start running and you realize, oh yeah, I gotta change my artifact too, it's not the best system. And it is one that, you know, we need to tie the artifact however you want your mods to be unlocked. We need to be able to save that with builds, because the game has just gotten that much more customizable into the experience. But the changes that Bungie's been making towards build crafting, and the complexities to, not complexities in a bad way, but just really like fine tunements into build crafting, I mean, have been just absolutely amazing. Been loving this part of the game itself, but just the artifact, we've got to, you know, just get a simpler approach to being able to fine tune and save certain loadouts with the artifact. So one of the fourth major areas I want to talk about is weapons and kind of weapon crafting. One of the big issues that, like, you got an iterative loop here, and, you know, so I got an iterative loop. You can kind of expect it. You know, it has a masterwork, but you don't see it anywhere on the in-game screen. Like, there's no way to see what your masterwork is for any crafted weapon. So the only way to really see it is to, one, go to the crafting table at the Enclave and inspect the weapon, and you can see it there. Or two, you can look it up in DIM. right? So if you click on your weapon in dim, you can then see and hover over this piece right here next to, the frame or archetype of the weapon. You can see that it has an enhanced stability masterwork. So this would be so much better to be able to see this in game. Have no idea why it's not in game still. And I know that people have been bringing this one up for the past year, but this would be great addition to be able to see in game. But another part of weapons and weapon crafting, this is something that I really like to see. If Bungie can take kinetic weapons, the kinetic weapon slot, you see how it's called here, kinetic weapons, and merge it with the energy weapon slot and kind of just have all of those weapons be able to interchange between the two slots and just have it like one pool, and it's just a primary weapon slot, a secondary weapon slot. Obviously the heavy weapons probably still stay there as is, but this is just really annoying to be able to have like a stasis build or a strand build, and one of your weapons, or even a solar build, right? And one of your weapons, one of them, is not going to match your elemental burn, right? Or your elemental type of your subclass, right? So right now I'm on a strand subclass. I have a strand weapon here as a submachine gun. I have a void shotgun and I have a strand machine gun. I would really like to be able to put in this energy weapon slot, secondary weapon slot, whichever you want to call it, a strand shotgun if I could, or a strand fusion rifle, but something that goes along with my build. And this is something that would really go a long way to just kind of easing to me a lot of builds, because if I want to make a solar build, I can't put a solar weapon in my top slot. There's nothing I can do. I just can't do it. There's no way for me to put a legendary there to fill in that kind of slot. And I would really like for them to kind of remove the restrictions of kinetic weapons and energy weapons and just have them primary, secondary weapon slots. And you can pick any of those weapons that fit those criterias that use kinetic ammo and energy ammo. And while we're real quick talking about some of these weapons, another thing that we kind of have an issue with in the game is kinetic ammo mods in the game. These should not cost the same amount as all the others, okay? And the big reason why I do think that is mostly because there's no heavy weapon for these mods to be used. Why would I use a kinetic scavenger mod and not something else to pair along with my heavy weapon that I'm using? So we don't have any heavy weapons that are kinetic weapons. So, and this goes along with kinetic scavenger. Yeah, kinetic siphon's a 2. Okay, that's a little bit less. That's better than the 3s that are for pretty much all the other ones. Kinetic reserves still there at 3 as well. So there's no benefit to really taking these kinetic, reserves or scavenger mods and using those, because we're not going to use those for heavy weapons. And there's no real synergies with heavy weapons. There's no kinetic heavies. Last thing I want to talk about is trials. Man, this is a tough one because a lot of people are very passionate about trials. I'm not a big PvPer in Destiny. I don't care for Destiny's PvP. I do like to get in there, and actually I've been playing a lot more of it with Strand here recently. It's kind of funny enough that Strand has gotten me to play more PvP than anything else. Just being able to fly around with grapple is a lot of fun. But one of the thoughts I kind of had last season, I'm not a big PvPer, so it took me a good part of a day to get my card up to 7 wins. And really, I was kind of thinking, I was like, man, I just got 7 wins and I kind of don't really get much out of that. So really kind of what I was thinking was, why don't they just make adept loot from trials after a 7-win card? And it's not that I don't think flawless isn't valued or appreciated, because I do think it is. But if you're talking like, I'm gonna go out there and farm a 7-win card to get 1 piece of loot or 2 pieces of adept trials gear over the course of a weekend, then it's not realistic to think that, yeah, I mean, we don't want people getting in there and just getting 7 wins and getting 1 adept immortal that came out like last weekend and is like the craze, right? And it's just one of those things that, just because people get in there and get 7 wins and they get like 1 or 2 maybe adept weapons a weekend, it's not going to be game breaking. Just because they got 2 of them doesn't mean they're going to get god rolls, and most likely they won't, right? We kind of all know the odds and RNG that the game of Destiny has. It's just crazy, and you know, it just kind of eases the barrier of kind of getting in there and getting some of that loot. And this is also another thing that Bungie wants, is people to play longer into their cards, and I think that would also remove a lot of the possibilities of, you know, resetting your cards. And then you can go get your 7 wins and get your adept weapon for the weekend, right? But flawless should come with all the other perks, and obviously, you know, like the flare, the bragging rights, and a lot of that stuff. I'm just talking about being able to get into trials and go run a card and get into 7 wins and getting like 1 or 2 pieces of adept weapons over the course of a whole weekend or while trials is up. I'm not talking about sitting there and allowing people to get 7 wins and just farm it. Those people that do that, they're going flawless in like 30 minutes anyways. Like they don't need 7 wins. They're going to go flawless. 7 wins to them is nothing. I'm talking really more of for people that are not big PvP mains in this game. And we all know like how professional the PvP aspect of Destiny really is. But they keep making tweaks and stuff like that to the Trials of Osiris, and there's a big one coming here in a couple of weeks with like different pools and stuff like that. And it's like, dude, just put everybody together, just let people play. People get to 7 wins, they can get their adept weapon, and then, you know, let them keep grinding, get more rewards, or they reset their card and, you know, try to go get another 7-win card to get more adept weapons and stuff like that. But dude, the people that are going in there and doing this flawless, I mean, they're going to get 7 wins and go flawless in like 30 to 45 minutes. So it's just, you know, it's not really a big deal to them. Like they're going to go in there and just grind it out anyways. It's just an idea. I just thought it was interesting because it kind of lowers the barrier for, you know, getting loot more. The loot is probably what most people are willing to go chase for anyways. And that would get me to probably play trials a little bit more, is, you know, go in there, I can play for a couple hours, get to 7 wins, get my piece, and, you know, maybe farm it again, maybe not, or maybe play it again, maybe not. I don't know. I just think it would be something intriguing to kind of get people in there to get adept loot. So really that's about all I had for, you know, updates I would like to see come in the future for Destiny 2, or just some ideas for updates I'd like to see come in the future. Some of the topics I hit on I think are a little bit more necessity than just ideas. I think they really need to hit on the artifact saving with certain builds and loadouts, because that is brutal when seasons change. Alrighty, be silent and be deadly.